All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Today, we're taking a deep dive into the world of entrepreneurship.
Um, Sounds exciting.
It is. We've got two videos, both jam-packed with interviews from people who've built these incredible businesses,
Mm.
million-dollar businesses, even billion-dollar
Wow.
businesses.
Yeah, like how do they do it, right?
Exactly. And that's what we're going to find out. We'll dissect their stories, their strategies, see what we can learn from their journeys.
Okay, I'm ready. What kind of businesses are we talking about?
Well, all sorts. I mean, the first video alone takes us everywhere. We've got a chiropractor who built this like $1 million practice in just a single year.
Well, really, in 1 year.
Yeah. And there's this digital marketing whiz, super successful.
I bet they have some good insights.
Oh, tons. And then get this, there's a guy who owns a recycling business and he almost went bankrupt like multiple times.
Wow. But I mean, he obviously didn't. So something must have turned things around for him.
Right. And that's what's so interesting. He actually talks about how those near failures, how those challenges forced him to like really analyze his business.
So it wasn't just like blind luck that he made it through.
No, not at all. I mean, for example, he had to figure out like what materials were actually the most profitable to recycle.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. And during a downturn, he had to get super creative to secure contracts. He started offering services that no one else was.
So thinking outside the box.
Totally. And, it's like, it's not just about being persistent. It's about taking those setbacks and learning from them, adapting.
Yeah, totally. I mean, anyone can keep going, but
Yeah.
you got to be smart about it too, right?
Absolutely. And it reminds me of this other entrepreneur from the video. He's driving around in this like fancy Rolls Royce now.
Nice. Living the dream, huh?
Yeah. But get this. Just a few years ago, he was donating plasma just to afford gas.
Wow, that's a huge turnaround.
Right. And that's what I find so fascinating about these stories, the resilience, the grind. But, okay, I'm curious, like, how did he build his brand during those early years when he was still struggling?
Good question. I mean, you don't just go from donating plasma to a Rolls Royce overnight.
He talks about how even back then, he would just like go above and beyond for every client.
Even when he was struggling.
Yeah, he would put in the extra hours, even if it meant no extra pay. He was focused on building those relationships, providing amazing value, really exceeding expectations.
And it sounds like it paid off.
Big time. And it kind of highlights this core principle, right? Personal branding. It matters, even in those early stages.
Okay, so it's not just about like a fancy logo or a website.
No, it's about like building trust,
Yeah.
showing people you're an expert, that you're reliable, that they can count on you.
So it's like a promise then, a promise to your customers.
Yeah, exactly. You're promising value, quality, a certain experience, and in today's world, I mean, everyone's got a million options.
So you got to stand out somehow.
Exactly. And I think that's true even if you're not in a like traditional business role, even if you're not selling something directly.
Interesting. How so?
Well, think about it. It's about building trust and credibility no matter who you're dealing with. Clients, colleagues, investors.
Okay, that makes sense. Like, who would you rather work with? Someone
Wow.
who just seems kind of like generic, or someone who's a clear expert, someone you feel like you can connect with?
Right.
No brainer.
Okay, so we've talked about resilience, about building a personal brand. But another thing that kept popping up in these interviews was financial smarts.
Like being good with money.
Yeah, like even when they started making serious cash, they didn't just go crazy. They kept their expenses under control.
Which is probably easier said than done.
Oh, definitely. And it goes back to that guy with the Rolls Royce. Remember, he was saying, like, keep those expenses low until you're really financially secure. He even said, like, he sees the Rolls Royce as an investment in his brand, not just a splurge.
Ah, okay. So it's strategic.
Exactly. And he also talked about how once you do achieve that financial success, it's about using it to create more opportunities, not just like upgrading your lifestyle.
So not just buying bigger and better stuff.
Right. And it reminded me of the chiropractor, the one who made $1.7 million in a year.
Yeah, that guy.
He was saying that his success came from providing real value, solving people's problems. He wasn't just focused on getting rich quick.
So it's not just about the money.
It seems like for a lot of these entrepreneurs, the money was a result of like doing something well, of solving a problem effectively.
So I guess the question for us is, what problems do we see? What could we solve?
Exactly. What needs aren't being met? What frustrations are people dealing with? Maybe the next big business idea is hidden in those answers.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny, right? Like Both these videos really highlight the financial success, the money.
Yeah, that's what usually grabs the headlines, right?
Totally. But it makes you think, is that all there is to it? Like, what about the other stuff? The passion?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You can tell these folks are driven by more than just money.
For sure. Like, take that guy who built a recycling business. He's not just making millions.
Right. He's also doing something good for the environment.
Exactly. That's got to be rewarding on a different level.
And, there was that woman who started the online fitness company. It's like she's helping people live healthier lives.
That's awesome. So it's like entrepreneurial success can have all these different dimensions, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about the bottom line. It's about finding that sweet spot, where you're making money, but you're also like fulfilled and making a difference.
Yeah, totally. Okay, switching gears a bit. I noticed how many of those entrepreneurs in the Scottsdale interviews talked about mentors.
Oh, yeah. Having someone to guide you.
Yeah, like that guy who started a business with his dad. It
Yeah.
seems like having that family support, that shared vision was huge for him.
And that former Green Beret too, right? He was all about building the right team.
Yeah, he said mentors and advisors were crucial.
It's like having a brain trust, people to bounce ideas off of, to get honest feedback from, especially when things get tough.
Which they always do. It reminded me of like even that chiropractor from the first video, the one who made $1 million in a year. He talked about how important it was to never stop learning.
Keeping those skills sharp, huh?
Totally. He was always at seminars, reading books, like constantly trying to stay ahead of the curve.
That's smart. The business world moves so fast, right?
Yeah.
You got to keep up.
For sure. And, the healthcare and software guy, he was the same way. He was constantly reinvesting in himself, learning new things.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, how can we do that? How can we stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah.
What are some, less obvious ways?
Well, some of them talked about, like, connecting with people outside of their industry.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they would go to conferences in completely different fields just to get fresh ideas,
Ah, so you don't get stuck in just one way of thinking.
Exactly. And don't forget about mindset. So many of them talked about the power of, like, belief, visualizing success, overcoming those doubts.
It's all about that positive thinking, huh?
Totally. Like that digital marketing whiz. She said she used visualization techniques to stay focused, especially when things were tough.
And, that guy who was donating plasma, he got through those hard times because he really believed in what he was doing.
It's pretty amazing how much our thoughts can shape what happens, right? If you believe you can do it, you're way more likely to actually do it.
No doubt. And that brings up another important thing, taking action. These folks didn't just sit around dreaming about success.
Right. They went out and made it happen.
Even if it meant starting small or, taking a risk.
Like that recycling guy who started offering those new services during a downturn, even though it was risky.
Exactly. They understood that, if you don't do anything, nothing's going to change.
It makes you think, like, what's one small thing our listener could do today to move closer to their goals? Even a tiny step. It's pretty wild when you think about it. All these different paths, right? But they all ended up successful.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, what's the secret sauce? What do they all have in common?
Well, I think it's that entrepreneurial spirit, that drive,
Yeah, they're not afraid to take risks, to shake things up.
Totally. Like, remember that chiropractor, the one who built that amazing practice? He wasn't content to just, do the same old thing.
You wanted to do more, right?
Yeah. He saw a need for, a new approach to chiropractic care, and he just went for it.
He even spent a ton of time outside of work, didn't he? Like researching, going to workshops.
Oh, yeah. Tons. He even traveled to, observe other practitioners who were doing cool stuff.
It's dedication. It's
Yeah.
it's not enough to just have a good idea.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work.
100%. And it's not always about the money either. It's about, having a purpose.
Right. Like that guy with the recycling business, he was so passionate about helping the environment.
And the woman with the online fitness company, she genuinely wants to help people get healthy.
You can just tell, right? It's like
Yeah.
their passion fuels their success.
Totally. And it makes you realize, when you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, for sure. It becomes this driving force. And then the other thing that struck me was how many of them talked about failure.
Oh, yeah. They didn't let it stop them.
They embraced it. They saw it as a chance to learn.
Like that guy who was donating plasma, he talked about how those tough times made him super resourceful.
He wouldn't be where he is now without going through all that, right?
Right. It's like you're not always going to succeed, but you got to pick yourself up and keep going.
Learn from your mistakes. Make adjustments.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the biggest thing to remember is that entrepreneurial spirit, it's in all of us.
Yeah. We all have the potential.
It's about finding your passion, seeing those problems you can solve, and taking action.
Even if it's just one small step at a time.
So, what are you passionate about? What change do you want to make? What's stopping you from taking that first step?
Don't be afraid to dream big. And find people who support you.
Exactly. And hey, maybe someday we'll be featuring your story right here on the show.
That would be awesome.
All right, that's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Keep learning. Keep growing.
And until next time, keep pushing those boundaries. See what you can create.